He thought he was celebrating his 26th birthday. Instead, he walked straight into a setup so precise, detectives called it surgical. This is the night Julio Foolio never walked away from. It was just past 3 a.m. in Tampa, Florida. The air was thick, heavy with humidity, that kind that clings to your skin. And somewhere in the distance, the faint echo of bass thumped from a passing car. But inside a modest parking lot outside the Holiday Inn, the night was about to fracture into chaos. A group of young men and women had just returned from a late-night party. Laughter, phones out, a few Instagram stories still uploading, then silence, the kind that comes before everything breaks. A dark sedan rolled past, headlights dimmed. It slowed just enough, and then the first gunshot. One shot, two. Then an explosion of sound, rapid-fire bursts shattering the stillness of the early morning. Shell casings scattered across asphalt like brass rain. People screamed. Some dove behind cars. Others ran without knowing where. When the echoes finally stopped, all that remained was smoke, shattered glass, and a single body on the ground. A man the world would soon realize was Julio Foolio, one of Jacksonville's most talked-about rappers. Police lights flooded the scene within minutes, reds and blues reflecting off the white walls of the hotel. Officers cordoned off the lot as paramedics rushed forward, their footsteps echoing on concrete slick with rain and blood. Someone whispered his name. That's Foolio. That's Foolio. But no one wanted to believe it. The paramedics worked fast. Compressions, oxygen masks, shouted commands. But it was already too late. At 26 years old, Julio Foolio's story had ended on a humid Florida night far from home. And yet this wasn't random. This was calculated, planned, a setup. The question wasn't just who pulled the trigger, but why did they know exactly where he'd be? As detectives began to canvass the scene, the story of Julio Foolio's final hours started to twist into something darker. A trap that had been building for weeks. Inside a nearby patrol car, an officer replayed security footage from the hotel cameras. A figure in a hoodie. A car idling too long in the shadows. A timestamp 2:57 a.m., less than 3 minutes before the shooting. But the real story didn't start there. To understand that night and why the bullets found him, you have to go back. Back to Jacksonville. Back to a young man who turned pain into music. Who rose from violence, only to be swallowed by it again. Because this wasn't just another rapper caught in street drama. This was the climax of a feud years in the making, a cycle of revenge that blurred the line between art and war. Tonight, we're unraveling that story. From the heart of Florida's rap scene to the alleys where music became a map of enemies. This is the case of Julio Foolio, a case that began with fame and ended with 50 rounds in a hotel parking lot. Outside the hotel, as dawn crept over Tampa's skyline, yellow tape fluttered in the morning breeze. News crews started arriving. Reporters set up their tripods, repeating the same headline. Florida rapper shot and killed overnight. Police are investigating what appears to be a targeted attack. Fans flooded social media. Shock turned to disbelief, then to rage. How did they find him? Why wasn't he protected? Was this retaliation? The hashtags trended before sunrise. Ripe Foolio. Millions of posts, tributes, and speculation. Some said it was jealousy. Others whispered it was gang payback. But behind the rumors, investigators already had a different theory. One that pointed to a woman, a rental home, and a string of text messages that would break open the case. For now, though, all anyone knew was that a rising star was gone. His body was wheeled away before the cameras arrived. The sun rose over a crime scene littered with evidence bags and quiet detectives. Somewhere the shooter watched the headlines, knowing they had done what others had only threatened. And as Foolio's mother woke to the call no parent should ever receive, a storm was already forming. An investigation that would expose betrayal, obsession, and the cost of living between two worlds, the music and the streets. He always said he'd die in Florida, one of his friends told a local reporter later, but nobody thought it would happen like this. Before that night in Tampa ever happened, before the flashing lights and gunfire, there was a kid in Jacksonville trying to survive. Charles Andrew Jones II grew up on the north side of Jacksonville, in a neighborhood where the sound of sirens was part of the background music. They called him Foolio long before he became famous, a name born on the block, where nicknames stuck faster than dreams did. He was quiet as a child, observant, almost shy. But when his father was killed in 2011, something hardened inside him. Friends say that's when the lyrics started, not written on paper, but muttered under his breath, like small confessions turned into rhythm. At 15, he was recording tracks on borrowed mics, uploading them to SoundCloud under a name nobody outside Florida could pronounce. The recordings were rough, static, echo, street noise in the background, but there was something raw in his voice. Pain sharpened into poetry. Jacksonville wasn't just another rap scene. It was a battleground set to 808s. Two factions dominated the streets and the sound, ATK and KTA, rival crews whose beef spilled from corners into studios. Songs weren't just entertainment, they were statements, and every bar could light a fuse. Foolio stood with KTA. His opposite was Youngin Ace, the face of ATK. Their feud started small, subliminal lines, side-eye verses, but the tension grew until the track sounded like open declarations of war. When Foolio dropped Who I Smoke remix, he didn't just rap. He mocked. He named names of the dead, turning loss into melody. It went viral, but it also made him a marked man. That song changed everything, one Jacksonville DJ recalled. He wasn't just a rapper anymore, he was a target. Fame hit fast. By 2020, Foolio's YouTube channel was clocking millions of views. He was flashy, unpredictable, funny on camera, but there was always tension beneath the confidence. He'd joke about danger in interviews, laugh it off, yet security followed him everywhere. Every show was a calculation. Which city was safe? Who could he trust? In one vlog he said, "People think I'm living the dream. I'm living, yeah, but every day could be my last." That wasn't a metaphor. He'd already survived multiple shootings, one of them leaving bullet holes through his car window. His music only got darker after that, part confession, part warning. Despite the violence, Foolio stayed loyal to Jacksonville. He never moved to LA or Atlanta like other rappers. "This where I'm from," he'd tell reporters. "If I die here." Those words would echo later, haunting every headline. By 2023, Foolio was balancing between the studio and the streets. Labels were calling, blogs were profiling him as the next breakout from Florida drill. But for every opportunity, there was a threat. The feud with Youngin Ace's circle had cooled in the public eye, but insiders knew the tension never really died. It just went underground. Tracks were quieter, but DMs, posts, and whispers kept the rivalry alive. Behind closed doors, Foolio talked about change. He wanted to go mainstream, buy his mother a house, build a studio for kids from his block. Yet every time he stepped outside, he felt eyes watching him. Fans, enemies, maybe both. He couldn't escape the gravity of Jacksonville's street politics. In interviews, he looked straight into the camera and said, "If I ever go, just know I was trying to make it out." He meant it. In the months before his death, Foolio seemed restless. He posted cryptic captions on Instagram, "Too many snakes around me. If I get set up, don't cry." He'd started traveling more, leaving Jacksonville for shows across Florida. The Tampa trip, he told friends, was supposed to be a quick birthday celebration. Nothing serious. He'd booked an Airbnb, shared his location with his circle, even joked that he was safe this time. But fate doesn't warn you twice. That weekend, as he packed his bags, fans flooded his DMs asking about new music. He promised a new project, Life of a Menace 2. It was supposed to be his reinvention, more storytelling, less beef. He never got to record it. For years, Foolio's music had been a reflection of survival. Every verse a small victory against the life that kept trying to claim him. But what he didn't know was that someone else was watching those same posts, those same stories, studying his moves, planning their moment. His fame had made him visible to millions, and traceable to the wrong few. When he left Jacksonville for Tampa that June, he believed he was leaving trouble behind. In truth, he was driving straight into the setup that would end his life. The summer of 2024 was supposed to be a turning point for Julio Foolio. He had new music ready, a growing fan base, and for once a reason to celebrate. June 21st marked his 26th birthday. Friends said he wanted to keep it quiet. No clubs, no drama. But life had other plans. Foolio had been in Tampa for 2 days, staying first at an Airbnb booked under someone else's name, a young woman, later identified as Alicia Andrews. To everyone online, it looked like a simple birthday trip. A few posts, a rented house, friends coming and going. But detectives would later learn that this wasn't an ordinary booking. It was bait. That Friday, he'd gone live on Instagram. Music playing, laughing, flashing peace signs. In the comments, fans joked about his safety. "Stay inside, bro." He smiled, shrugged, said, "I'm good." He wasn't. By midnight, the Airbnb host had asked them to leave after noise complaints. Foolio and his crew scrambled to find a hotel. The Holiday Inn Express near I-275 had a few rooms left. They packed up, unaware that eyes were already on them. Phone pings, social media check-ins. A digital trail so precise it was almost invisible. Police later reconstructed his last 24 hours entirely through data. A text at 1:13 a.m. "We hear." A DoorDash order placed at 2:05. A series of missed calls between 2:30 and 2:45. Each ping painted a map straight to that hotel parking lot. Meanwhile, in another part of Tampa, a car idled. Inside sat at least 3 people, one of them scrolling through social media, watching Foolio's story in real time. He'd just posted, "Chillin', safe and sound." It would be his last update. Hotel surveillance shows Foolio arriving a little before 3 a.m., wearing a black hoodie, chain visible. He looked tired, not paranoid. He talked briefly with a friend in the lot, then headed toward the entrance. Across the street, the dark sedan pulled forward. No one inside the hotel realized the trap was set. Within minutes, bursts of gunfire ripped through the quiet street. Dozens of rounds, all targeted. Witnesses said it sounded like fireworks, until they saw him fall. When detectives began their investigation, they found something that didn't add up. The Airbnb used for his birthday had been rented through a third party. The woman who booked it, Alicia Andrews, had connections to several men already on law enforcement radar. And text messages retrieved from her phone painted a chilling picture. One message read, "He need to die on his birthday." Prosecutors later called it a digital confession. She claimed she was pressured into it, but detectives didn't buy it. The Airbnb was rented 2 days before Foolio even arrived in Tampa. Someone knew his plans in advance, someone close enough to earn his trust. Friends said he'd been on edge the week before. He talked about feeling watched. He even skipped a show in Miami after a strange DM from an unknown account. But he also felt untouchable. "Too famous to get caught slipping," he joked. In reality, he was tired of running, tired of beef, tired of warnings. He just wanted a normal birthday. That night, he didn't bring bodyguards. Only 2 friends. No security detail, no caravan of SUVs. Just a rapper trying to relax for one night. And that's exactly what made him vulnerable. Investigators pieced together a timeline that read like a blueprint for betrayal. Someone close to Foolio had shared his location under the guise of helping him find lodging. The hit team followed his posts, then his car. When the Airbnb party was shut down, they waited for his next move. It wasn't luck. It was precision. One detective later said, "They knew where he'd sleep before he did." That line would become the defining truth of the case. Inside the Holiday Inn, Foolio talked about recording a birthday freestyle the next morning. He set his phone on the nightstand, plugged in the charger, and laughed about turning 26 outside. The dark sedan was already circling for the final time. Later, when investigators downloaded his phone records, they found an unread message time-stamped 2:59 a.m., seconds before the shooting. "Come outside. We here." He never replied. CCTV shows a shadow at the edge of the lot. The flash of gunfire, then the car speeding away. No license plate, no faces visible. Just a blur, and the sound of revenge echoing off the hotel walls. By the time police arrived, his friends were screaming for help. The scene was chaotic. Phones everywhere, streaming, posting, crying. In the background of one Instagram live, you can hear someone say, "Don't show his face." Within an hour, every news outlet had the story. Within 6, detectives already had a list of names. The setup was clear. The question was how deep it went. Back in Jacksonville, his mother refused to believe he was gone until she saw his chain at the morgue. She later said in an interview, he wanted peace for one night. That's all he wanted. That line broke the internet. Detectives tracked the car to a gas station camera 30 minutes away. From there, they traced a trail of evidence, rental agreements, surveillance footage, and a set of fingerprints on a door handle. It would take months, but those prints would eventually lead to arrests that shocked Florida's rap community. For now, though the case was chaos, rumors, fear, and a city asking whether the music it loved had finally gone too far. In the days after his death, fans left flowers and posters outside his childhood home. Someone spray-painted on a wall, "Long live Foolio." But in the quiet of the investigation room, detectives knew this was only the beginning. They had motive, they had names, and soon they'd have proof. The truth was coming, the narrator says, voice low. But so was something no one expected, a betrayal from inside his own circle. The morning after the shooting, Tampa police closed off the hotel parking lot with yellow tape. The Florida sun was already beating down, turning the asphalt into a mirror of heat. Reporters hovered at the edges, microphones ready, waiting for an official statement. Detective Luis Mercado, one of the first investigators on scene, stood over a line of numbered cones, shell casings, over 50 of them. "This wasn't random," he said quietly. "This was surgical." The parking lot was chaos frozen in time, tire marks leading toward the exit, shattered glass near Foolio's rented vehicle, a half-smoked blunt still resting on the curb. But it was the phone that told the first story. Foolio's iPhone was unlocked when officers found it. Camera app still open. The last photo time-stamped 2:56 a.m., a blurry image of headlights in the distance. When analysts enhanced it later, they realized those weren't headlights from a car pulling in. They were leaving. Inside the hotel, officers interviewed witnesses, a couple who'd heard the gunshots, a night clerk who'd ducked behind the counter. Everyone said the same thing. It happened fast. Too fast. They checked hotel cameras, gas station cameras, and traffic lights in a 2-mile radius. Within hours, detectives had their first clue. A dark Nissan Altima, Tinted windows, seen circling the hotel twice before the shooting. It was a start. While one team processed the physical evidence, another started digging through Foolio's digital life. His social media had always been his stage: Instagram stories, TikToks, live streams. But now it was a timeline of breadcrumbs. Detectives noticed something strange: a new account that had messaged Foolio several times the week before his death. The messages seemed friendly. "Are you good? You still doing that trip?" But the language matched texts found later on Alicia Andrews' phone. The IP address matched. That's when investigators realized the trap had been planned through DMs. Andrews wasn't just the Airbnb booker. She was the thread connecting Foolio's movements to the people who wanted him dead. A week after the murder, Tampa PD teamed up with Jacksonville's gang unit. Together they began mapping out phone pings and cross-checking call records. One call stood out: a brief 17-second conversation between Alicia Andrews and a number registered to Davian Murphy, a known associate of Foolio's rivals. The timing? 2:49 a.m., minutes before the gunfire. Detectives traced the same number to cell towers near the hotel, then to a quick-stop gas station, caught on camera just 15 minutes after the shooting. The car in the footage? A dark Nissan Altima. Bit by bit, the puzzle came together. Text messages, GPS data, rental agreements. Every piece pointed to one conclusion: this wasn't a robbery. It was an execution. The real turning point came when investigators subpoenaed records from Airbnb. The reservation for Foolio's birthday home was made 2 days before he ever mentioned the trip publicly. The booking was under Alicia Andrews' name, but the payment? A prepaid card bought by someone else entirely. That someone turned out to be Marcus M.J. Bryant, another man with ties to the ATK camp. Investigators tracked him through surveillance. He'd been seen at the same quick stop as Murphy, hours before the murder. At this point, the case stopped being speculation. It was becoming airtight. Detective Mercado described it later. "Once we connected the rental house to the suspects, we knew this wasn't impulse. This was a contract hit. The suspects had studied Foolio's patterns, the hotels he preferred, the type of rentals he used, even the way he posted his location on Instagram. Every piece of his digital life had been turned against him." By mid-July 2024, police had enough evidence to move in. Alicia Andrews was arrested first, charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Davian Murphy followed 2 weeks later after a traffic stop in Jacksonville. 2 more men, Bryant and Travis Green, were picked up on accessory charges. The community reaction was instant. Some fans were relieved, others couldn't believe it. Andrews, a woman who had once appeared in Foolio's vlogs, was now accused of helping lure him to his death. In court, she appeared quiet, almost expressionless. Prosecutors read the texts aloud. "He need to die on his birthday." Her lawyer claimed the messages were taken out of context. The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge paused. Out of context? The words hung there, chilling and undeniable. The investigation moved fast, but behind the scenes, detectives were under immense pressure. Florida's rap scene had already been scarred by violence, and Foolio's murder was threatening to spark retaliation. Officers worked around the clock, running cross-county warrants, double-checking statements. They interviewed over 40 witnesses. Many refused to speak, others cried on camera. One friend told police he always said he'd get set up by someone close. "I didn't believe him till now." Those words stuck with investigators, because the deeper they looked, the more it seemed Foolio had predicted his own fate. Ballistics matched the shell casings at the scene to 2 different weapons, both 9mm handguns. One of them, found later in a stolen car linked to Murphy, matched 3 casings near Foolio's vehicle. DNA on the gun grip connected back to another suspect. That's when prosecutors added first-degree murder to the charges. It wasn't just about who pulled the trigger anymore. It was about who orchestrated the setup. The story dominated headlines. Rolling Stone, People, and Complex all covered it. Fans flooded comment sections with tributes and theories. But the most chilling part came from Foolio's own words. Old interviews and lyrics resurfaced online. One clip went viral. "You can't trust nobody. I learned that the hard way, but I'm still gonna live how I live." It played like a prophecy. For law enforcement, though, the prophecy wasn't enough. They needed hard evidence, airtight enough to convict. So they went back through digital forensics, uncovering more proof of coordination. Group chats, map screenshots, payment transfers. The case that had started as a rumor was now a mountain of data. By August, the state attorney's office announced that all 5 defendants would be held without bond until trial. The press conference was brief but powerful. The lead prosecutor said, "This was not a random act. It was planned, targeted, and executed with precision." Still, one mystery remained. Who ordered the hit? Detectives believed the plot went higher. That someone outside the 5 suspects had financed the operation. But proving it would take time, and the community's patience was running thin. Even as the arrests were made, threats began circulating online. Some called it revenge. Others said it was justice. The cycle was already spinning again. By the fall of 2024, Tampa police had enough to close the primary file. But for Foolio's family, it wasn't closure, not yet. His mother said in an interview, voice trembling, "They got them, but I still don't sleep," because he trusted these people. He thought he was safe. The investigation had uncovered the truth, but the truth didn't bring peace, and while prosecutors prepared for one of Florida's biggest gang-related trials in years, something even darker was brewing. Online evidence leaks, witness threats, and rumors that someone had flipped, someone from Foolio's own crew. Justice was on its way, the narrator says softly. But so was the fallout. The arrests came one by one, but the shock hit all at once. When Tampa police confirmed that 5 suspects were now in custody, Florida's hip-hop world froze. News crews camped outside courthouses, live streams exploded on YouTube, and every comment thread burned with the same disbelief. People he knew, people he trusted, had helped set him up. Inside Hillsborough County Court, the atmosphere was electric, half press, half disbelief. Alicia Andrews, dressed in county orange, walked in with her head down. Reporters whispered. Fans online screen-captured her first appearance, tagging it, "The girl who booked the trap." The prosecutor's voice was calm but deliberate as he read from the indictment. The defendant, Alicia Andrews, did knowingly participate in the planning and execution of the homicide of Charles Andrew Jones II, also known as Julio Foolio. Behind her, in separate hearings, came Davion Murphy, Marcus M.J. Bryant, Travis Green, and Rodney Tate, each one expressionless as the judge denied bail. When the judge finally said, "Held without bond until trial," gasps echoed through the courtroom. The era of rumors was over. Now it was law. Outside, cameras swarmed. Fans shouted questions that nobody could answer. Why'd you do it? Was it money? Did someone send you? None of them spoke. Across Florida, radio stations replayed Foolio's music on loop. Commentators debated whether his murder was a wake-up call or just another headline in the endless war between ATK and KTA. Social media split in two. Some celebrated the arrests. Finally, justice. Others warned that the streets would answer before the courts ever could. Meanwhile, Foolio's mother appeared at a vigil, holding a candle beneath a mural of her son. Her voice cracked as she said, "They can lock them up, but they can't bring him home." The crowd chanted his name as the beat of his most famous song played through cheap speakers, echoing down the block like a heartbeat fading into the night. The prosecution built its argument piece by piece. Text messages, GPS logs, the Airbnb receipt. Every move the suspects made mapped to the minute. Lead prosecutor Sandra Raines told reporters, "This case is about premeditation, deliberate, organized violence disguised as friendship." In court, she showed the jury a timeline projected on a large screen. Blue dots marked Foolio's phone locations. Red dots marked the suspects. At 2:49 a.m., the two lines overlapped. Then one vanished. Alicia Andrews' defense team tried to claim she'd been manipulated. They said she'd only rented the house because a friend asked her to. But the jury saw the messages, the ones that read he need to die on his birthday. The courtroom went silent. The trial began in early 2025 and stretched for weeks. Testimony after testimony revealed a web of deceit. Phone records, gun residue tests, and statements from informants painted a story of betrayal fueled by ego and retaliation. One witness, a former acquaintance of Murphy, testified that he'd bragged about the hit days later, saying he didn't see it coming. The defense objected, but the damage was done. Detectives described months of digital surveillance. They even recovered deleted chats showing discussions about payment splits and getaway plans. By the time the prosecution rested, the narrative was airtight. A coordinated hit, timed to Foolio's birthday, carried out by people pretending to celebrate with him. When Foolio's mother took the stand, the courtroom fell silent again. She held a photo of her son smiling in a studio, chain glinting, eyes alive. Her voice trembled as she said, "He wasn't perfect, but he was trying. He was getting better. He wanted to live." Her testimony turned the trial from a case file into a tragedy. Even the bailiffs looked away. After deliberation, the jury returned its first verdict: guilty of first-degree murder for Davian Murphy. He showed no emotion as the sentence was read: life without parole. The courtroom erupted. Foolio's family wept. Some of his fans cheered. Others whispered prayers. Weeks later, Alicia Andrews accepted a plea deal, 25 years for conspiracy in exchange for testimony against the others. Her confession confirmed what detectives already suspected. The plan was made weeks in advance, and she'd been promised money and protection afterward. The remaining defendants faced similar fates. None walked free.
You've spent years perfecting the art of disappearing, quietly, skillfully, beautifully. Not vanishing completely, just enough that no one looks too closely. You speak softly, you move gently, you smile at the right moments, and still somehow the world forgets to notice.